Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The toast popped, but she didn't flinch. I watched the steam curl from the bread, waiting for her to acknowledge me, a glance, a word, even a sigh. Nothing. She just stirred her coffee with the kind of grace you'd reserve for strangers. No eye contact. No good morning. Just silence so thick I could feel it crawling up my throat. I bit into my toast too loud on purpose. She winced. That was the most connection we'd had in days. She used to hum when she made coffee. She used to peek over her shoulder and ask if I wanted cinnamon on mine. Now. She brewed hers like a ritual and walked out of the kitchen like I didn't exist. And you know the worst part? I started whispering to myself just to remember what my own voice sounded like. On Tuesday, I came home early from work. I didn't tell her. Wanted to surprise her. Dumb, I know. The kind of thing you do when you're desperate to feel needed. Or, seen. The house was quiet, not unusual. But her phone was on the table. Unlocked. A message flashed. Did he ask about the necklace? I froze. And then another. I felt so alive with you last night. He didn't even notice I was gone. I can't describe the feeling. Not rage. Not heartbreak. It was more like stepping into your own bedroom and realizing someone rearranged everything, but didn't think you'd notice. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't scroll. Didn't need to. Because right then, it clicked, she hadn't just stopped loving me. She'd moved on. Emotionally. Physically. Fully. And I hadn't even been invited to the goodbye. That night, I pretended to sleep while she slid under the covers at 2:12 a.m. I heard her whisper something under her breath. It wasn't my name. The next morning, I couldn't tell if she noticed that I hadn't slept. My eyes were sunken, hands trembling slightly as I tied my shoelaces, but she just walked past me, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, like I was part of the wallpaper. I watched her fingers scroll through her messages, smiling faintly at something on the screen. I wanted to scream. Instead, I grabbed the trash bag and left the house as if I had something useful to do, just so I could breathe. I sat in the car for 23 minutes. Didn't drive. Just sat there, staring at the steering wheel, wondering how long I'd been lying to myself. I kept flashing back to that text, he didn't even notice I was gone. I wondered if she sent it from this very driveway, still wearing my old hoodie. She always said it was the softest thing in the house. I finally drove somewhere. Not far. Just a park a few blocks away. Sat on a bench near the kids' playground and watched a father push his daughter on a swing. She laughed. He laughed. I don't know why it made my throat tighten. I don't have kids. Dana never wanted them. Said she wasn't built for motherhood. I believed her. But now I wondered if that was the truth, or just something she said because she never planned to stay with me long enough to build anything at all. When I got home, I saw it. Her overnight bag, the beige one she only ever packed when she visited her sister out of state. Only now I didn't think she was going to her sister's. I stood in the hallway as she brushed past me, not even bothering to look up from her phone. You going somewhere? I asked. She stopped. Just for a second. Then, as if it inconvenienced her to even answer, she muttered, just a short trip. I need space. That word hit harder than I expected. Space. I had been giving her nothing but space for weeks. A galaxy of it. And still, she needed more. I didn't argue. Didn't ask questions. Just nodded and stepped aside like a doorman. She left that afternoon. No goodbye kiss. Not even a see you later. I watched from the window as she pulled out of the driveway. I tried to memorize how her taillights looked disappearing down the road. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me already knew, she wasn't coming back the same. That night, I wandered the house like a stranger. Every room felt louder without her silence in it. The irony of that wasn't lost on me. I opened her closet and stared at the empty space where her travel bag used to sit. I should have felt angry. Furious. Betrayed. But what I felt was worse. I felt forgettable. I went to the kitchen, opened the drawer under the microwave where we kept all the junk, take-out menus, half-dead batteries, rubber bands, broken pens, and pulled out the notepad I used to write her shopping reminders. On the first page, I wrote, "You didn't lose me. You gave me away." I didn't sign it. Didn't leave it on her pillow. I just folded it, slipped it into her favorite book on the shelf, the one I knew she hadn't touched in months, and closed it. Then I turned off all the lights, sat in the dark, and waited. Not for her return. But for the strength to finally leave. I didn't sleep that night either. I kept hearing phantom sounds, the front door creaking, footsteps in the hallway, her voice saying my name in that half-sarcastic tone she used when she thought I was being too emotional. But it wasn't real. The house was still. Dead, almost. And I realized something terrifying, even when she was here, it still felt like this. The next morning, I stood at the kitchen sink rinsing out her mug, the one with the tiny chip on the handle she always refused to throw out. I stared at the chip like it meant something. Like it mirrored us. Still there, technically functional, but clearly damaged. I placed it gently back on the rack and caught my reflection in the window. I looked like a man slowly dissolving. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from a number not saved in my contacts. "You okay? You seemed off last time." My chest tightened. I replied, "Who is this?" The answer made me nauseous. "Brent. Dana's friend. From work. We met at the gallery." I remembered now. The smug guy in the linen blazer. The one who offered me a drink at that art opening and then spent the next hour talking to Dana like I didn't exist. I remember how she kept laughing at his jokes, jokes I would have been crucified for attempting. I didn't respond. I just stared at the message for a while, realizing something I hadn't let myself believe until then. He wasn't just some harmless coworker. He was the one. The reason behind the late-night showers, the sudden need for space, the way she smiled at her phone like it had better things to say than I ever could. That afternoon, I opened her laptop. I know, invasion of privacy. But honestly, there was no privacy left to protect. Not when she was already gone in every way that mattered. Her email was still logged in. I didn't go digging. I didn't have to. The inbox betrayed her all on its own. One thread was titled, "Weekend Plans Smiling Face with Smiling Eyes." I clicked. There they were. Dozens of messages. Restaurant reservations, hotel confirmations, inside jokes I didn't understand, and something that burned more than the rest, a picture of them together in a mirror. Her head on his shoulder. Both smiling. Her eyes looked alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. Maybe years. I sat there for a long time. Not angry. Not crying. Just, stunned. Like someone had pulled a curtain and the whole life I thought I had was a set on a stage. And the show had been cancelled weeks ago. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Something told me that if I said anything now, she'd twist it. She'd make it my fault. Say I was paranoid, dramatic, or too sensitive. No, I needed her to be sure I knew. I wanted her to show me exactly how little I mattered, because I wanted to leave without regrets. So I packed a bag. Not to run. But to prepare. Because the next time she walked through that door, I was going to vanish, so quietly she wouldn't hear it until the echo settled in. I didn't leave immediately. That would have been too easy, too clean. No, I needed her to see it. Not my pain, not my anger, but the stillness I had grown used to. The kind of stillness you feel when you've already died inside, long before anyone pronounces it. So I stayed another night. I wanted her to return and feel the weight of the silence I had lived in, to notice that something had shifted. She came home late again. The sound of the key turning in the lock was sharp, metallic, louder than usual. I stood in the hallway and watched her walk in like she was slipping back into a movie scene she didn't care much about. She was wearing a necklace I hadn't seen before, delicate, silver, subtle, exactly the kind of thing she never wore around me. Her lips were stained, cheeks flushed. She didn't smell like home. She smelled like someone else's car, someone else's sheets. She saw me standing there. Our eyes met. I said, "You're late." She gave a tired smile, not guilty, just bored, and said, "I told you I was going out." But she hadn't. And we both knew it. I stepped aside and let her pass, and she did. No questions. No explanations. She moved through the house like a guest who knew she overstayed her welcome but didn't care because no one was kicking her out. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made herself a smoothie, checked her emails, left dishes in the sink. I sat across from her at the table. She didn't even look up. I studied the way her eyes darted over her screen, how her fingers typed quickly like she was racing toward another life, one I wasn't invited to. I asked, "Do you even want me here?" That got her attention. She looked up, raised an eyebrow, and said, "What kind of question is that?" But she didn't answer it. And that's when I knew, she wasn't going to say it. She didn't have the courage to break me because she assumed I'd keep breaking myself trying to fix her. So I nodded. I said nothing else. Just got up and took the smoothie glass she left behind and rinsed it slowly, carefully, like I was washing the last trace of what we used to be. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up packing the essentials. Not because I wanted to run, but because I needed to go before I lost what little of myself was still intact. At 5:47 a.m. I left. No note. No suitcase by the door. Just my phone, wallet, and the clothes on my back. I slipped out the front door like a ghost escaping the body it no longer belonged in. She was still asleep. Curled under the blanket we picked out together 2 years ago. I watched her from the doorway one last time. And then I closed it. Quietly. Firmly. Finally. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. Like the last page of a book no one finishes. But for the first time in weeks, the silence was mine. I didn't go far after I left. Just a motel 2 towns over, the kind with flickering signs and a strange smell in the hallway. I wasn't ready to crash with friends, and I couldn't bear the idea of explaining anything to anyone. The truth sounded pathetic when spoken aloud. My wife ignored me until I left. Not exactly headline material. People expect some dramatic betrayal, a loud fight, a slammed door. But what do you say when the thing that destroyed you never made a sound? The motel had this tiny window overlooking a gas station. I spent the first 2 days doing nothing but staring out of it, watching people live lives that didn't include me. I didn't check my phone much. I expected nothing. Still, every hour or so, I unlocked it just to see if maybe, she had noticed I was gone. She hadn't. No missed calls. No messages. Not even a question mark. It was like I'd never been there to begin with. That kind of silence messes with your head. It makes you question everything, your worth, your memory, your reality. Did I imagine our good years? Did I make her up in my head? Was I ever really loved, or was I just convenient? By the 3rd day, something strange happened. I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "Thought I saw you near Route 12. You okay?" My stomach dropped. It was from her sister, Amelia. We weren't close, but we used to talk more than Dana ever knew. Especially when Dana went through her moods, Amelia would check in. Discreetly. Kindly. I didn't respond right away, but then a second message followed. "She's telling people you left because you had a breakdown." I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. A breakdown? Is that the story now? That I cracked under pressure and vanished like a ghost in a storm? I could almost hear Dana's voice. "He's sensitive. Always was." As if my silence had been weakness, not survival. Something in me flipped. It wasn't anger exactly. It was more like a slow, focused clarity. I realized she had already rewritten the story in her head, a version where she was the neglected wife and I was the unstable husband who couldn't handle his own mind. I could see her sitting with Brent, maybe even laughing about it. I tried, but Wendell was off. I didn't know what else to do. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared photo drive Dana forgot we both had access to. I hadn't looked in months. I figured it'd be full of old birthday dinners and beach sunsets. But there was a new folder. One she never intended for me to find. It was titled with a date, just a week before I left. Inside were a dozen photos. Her and Brent. In a cabin I'd never seen. Her wrapped in his jacket. Him lighting a fire while she leaned into him. Candids. Close. Intimate. The kind of photos we used to take back when things were good. The last picture was a selfie. Dana's face pressed to his, eyes sparkling in a way that gutted me. Caption, "Finally happy." I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, staring at the screen until my vision blurred. It wasn't the betrayal that crushed me. It was how easy it was for her to move on. As if I was a placeholder. A draft she had finally deleted. But something else happened too. I stopped waiting for her to call. Because I finally understood, she never would. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of something I hadn't felt in years, freedom. 2 days after finding that folder of photos, I deleted my calendar app. It might seem like a small, random thing, but that calendar was the last string tying me to her life. Every event on it was color-coded, her yoga sessions, his and her dentist appointments, dinner with her coworkers, even anniversary night, in faded gray. I stared at that one the longest. She never canceled it. She just stopped showing up. Like a ghost RSVPing for a party she never planned to attend. I deleted everything. Not in anger, but with a strange, precise calm. It felt surgical. Like I was removing a tumor I had been convinced was just a sore muscle. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But the universe, for some reason, never lets you walk away quietly. It happened on a Thursday afternoon, in a bookstore I used to take Dana to when we were dating. I was sitting near the back, reading the first chapter of a novel I had no intention of buying, when I saw her. Not Dana. Amelia. Her sister. She walked in with purpose, spotted me immediately, and came over before I could pretend not to notice. She didn't sit. She didn't smile. She just said, "You need to know what she's telling people." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My silence was invitation enough. According to Dana, I'd left her after, spiraling emotionally. She said I refused to talk, was paranoid, and had accused her of things that weren't real. She even told their mother that I might be unsafe to be around. It wasn't just about distancing herself anymore, it was about erasing me with one carefully worded lie at a time. Amelia pulled out her phone and showed me texts Dana had sent her. Long rants about how exhausting I was, how he's been needy for years, and how she finally found someone who sees her for who she is. I should have felt broken. But oddly, I didn't. I felt vindicated. Because that was the thing about Dana, she was always careful with her image. Always the composed one, the rational one. And I was always the sensitive one, the overthinker, the one who felt too much. But now her mask was slipping, and I wasn't the only one who saw it. Amelia finally sat down and said something I didn't expect. "She's not well, Wendell. She's playing house with a fantasy and pretending none of it will collapse. But it will." I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't want to feel pity for Dana. I didn't want to feel anything at all. But a part of me still did. Because that's the curse of someone like me, I never learned how to stop caring. Even when it hurts. That night, back at the motel, I took a shower and stared at myself in the mirror afterward. The man looking back at me wasn't broken. Not anymore. He looked tired. Weathered. But there was a spark in his eyes. Not revenge. Not hope. Just clarity. And clarity, it turns out, is stronger than closure. I opened my laptop again and typed out everything. The messages. The photos. The lies. Not to post. Not to expose. Just to have a record, my record. Because if someone was going to rewrite the story of our marriage, it wouldn't be just her version floating around. I was done being the ghost in the narrative. It had been a week since I walked out. 7 days of silence. 7 mornings where I didn't hear her footsteps on the hardwood or smell her expensive cinnamon soap in the bathroom. I thought by now I'd start missing her. The way she laughed during documentaries. The way she used to steal fries from my plate, pretending she didn't want any of her own. But I didn't miss her. Not really. What I missed was who she pretended to be. Still, the mind plays tricks on you. It offers flashes, old memories dressed up in soft light, filtered through nostalgia, made to look warmer than they ever were. That's how I ended up driving back toward the house. Not to go in. Just to see it. Just to remember that I once lived there, that it was real. I parked 2 blocks down and walked the rest of the way. I stayed on the opposite sidewalk, hidden beneath my hood. From a distance, the house looked the same. Too normal, almost offensively so. Then I noticed something strange. Her car wasn't there. But his was. Brent. I recognized the slick black Tesla, the one he bragged about at the gallery, the same one he joked, turns more heads than I ever could. And there it was, parked casually in my driveway like it belonged. I should have walked away. I should have turned around and reminded myself that I no longer lived in that world. But curiosity is a cruel thing, especially when you've been made to feel invisible for so long. I crossed the street, careful not to be seen, and stood beneath the window I used to open on summer nights. Voices. Muffled. But clear enough to recognize tones. Hers, sharp, defensive. His, louder than I expected, frustrated. They were fighting. I couldn't make out every word, but I heard enough to piece it together. She had told him she wasn't ready to go public. That she still needed time. That I was unstable and might cause problems if they rushed things. He was tired of sneaking around. Tired of being her secret. He said, and I'll never forget this, if he's gone, then why are you still hiding? Silence followed. Then came her reply, barely audible but razor sharp. Because deep down, I think he might still come back. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from fury. Not because she had said it. But because she meant it. She wanted me to return. Not because she loved me. But because she needed me, as a backup plan. A safety net. A person to blame when her affair crumbled. The fall guy for her guilt. That was the moment the final wire snapped. I turned and walked away, not slowly, quickly, deliberately, like a man escaping a fire he once called home. I didn't go back to the motel. I didn't go to a bar. I went straight to a quiet co-working space I use sometimes to write. I sat down, opened a blank document, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't write about her. I wrote about me. About how I lost myself in someone else's silence. About how loving her had turned me into a ghost, and how leaving her had made me real again. And when I finished the first page, I emailed it to a friend of mine, an editor, and wrote, "This is the start of something. Let me know if it's worth continuing." It was. 2 months have passed since I left. The motel is behind me. So is the sadness, the pacing, the constant wondering whether she would text, call, or suddenly appear. She didn't. She never did. But that's the best thing she never did, because it forced me to finally stop living on pause. Amelia texted me a week after that final moment outside the house. She didn't mention Dana. Just sent a photo of a sunrise and said, "New days are better when you choose them for yourself." That stuck with me. I've been waiting for permission to move forward, waiting for someone to tell me it was okay to stop hurting, but the truth is, no one hands you healing. You have to build it yourself. I did. One small piece at a time. I rented a quiet studio apartment. Nothing fancy, but it smells like fresh coffee and my laundry detergent, and for the first time in a long while, it's mine. I started writing again, not just in a journal, but really writing. The piece I sent to my editor friend. He loved it. Said it felt raw in a way that matters. We're talking about turning it into a column. The irony is, I spent years being afraid that Dana would leave me. Turns out, the best thing I ever did was leave her. I didn't make some dramatic social media post. I didn't send her one final message. I simply let the silence do what it always wanted to, teach me that I was enough on my own. Do I wish things had gone differently? Sometimes. But not because I want her back. I think I just wish I had loved myself sooner. Listen to the version of me that whispered, "You deserve to be seen." And now. I do see myself. And I've started surrounding myself with people who see me, too. There's peace in that. Not fireworks. Not revenge. Just peace. And if you've never felt that before, trust me, it's worth every step it takes to get there.